new? Your first question is probably, does his wife know? No, she doesn't. So if you could, at Denise Educator, 1E, make her morning splendid. She lives in Victoria. I'll get back to why I'm here, obviously paying homage to a man that I look up to. But first, why am I here? And it's because I want to talk about this, purpose. And in fact, what I call it is the purpose effect. Now let's get into this for a second. It's quite simple. It's a Venn diagram because everything in my mind is a Venn diagram. At the top of the Venn is personal purpose. That's you. It starts with you. If you don't have purpose, there's no chance in getting to the rest of the Venn. Now on the bottom right of the Venn is where you work. It's the organization. It ought to have a higher sense of purpose. But guess what? You work in a role at the organization. And that role ought to have a sense of purpose for you. It's very simple math. But because I only have like 8.5 minutes left, I'm going to focus on these two. If you want to learn more about the organizational purpose, well, there are other avenues for you to check that out. Now, let's talk about personal purpose for a second here. I call it the 3 Ds. If you are not constantly developing yourself, your likes, your dislikes, your interests, if you are not violently opposed to the status quo, you've got no hope. You've got no courage. If you have not defined, if you have not declared, your personal purpose, as for me, we're not here to see through each other, we're here to see each other through. That's a declaration of purpose. What's yours? And then lastly, do you play for the name on the back of your jersey or the crest on the front? That's a decision. Do you open the door for someone? Do you not answer that email? Do you send an attachment when someone asks for a PowerPoint and you give it as a PDF? It's a decision. And that's personal purpose. And then when we're talking about role, if you have defined, declared, and decided that you act with purpose, and let's presume for a second that your organization does enact and distribute a higher sense of purpose in its operations, you will be in one of 3 mindsets. Hopefully, you're in the purpose mindset. And that is someone who feels valued, delivers value, and ergo is valuable. But the problem in our organizations today, in the roles that you occupy, in the roles that you serve as leaders of learning and PD and HR and culture, is that far too many of us are in the job mindset. We're checked out. It's a paycheck. It's 9 to 5. It's hedonic. It's a transaction. It's disillusioned, disenfranchised, disaffected, disengaged people. That's a lot of distance. But the bigger problem, in my opinion, is if you're in the career mindset. The career mindset means you're a bully. All you want is girth. You're looking for increased salary, increased job title, increased budget, increased team size. You don't give a rat's ass about the people below you because you're more interested in climbing to the top. That's the career mindset. And combined of the job and the career mindset, it makes up 70% of our organizations. So I was thinking about my friend Gord. I was thinking, good Lord, or should I say good Gord. Here's a guy for 30 plus years, after having gone out of Queens, met the boys in Kingston, started the Hip, 14 albums with the band, 4 albums as a solo artist, a poet. He's always pushing the envelope with the band. New music, new tunes, never the same. Never the same. It's not CCR. And wherever he shows up for you. He decides to show up for you, as does the band. So ask yourself, is Gord in the hip, in the job, the career, or the purpose mindset as an artist, as a musician, as a poet? I argue, he and the band are in the purpose mindset. Show of hands who watched this, August the 20th? Yeah. Show of hands, who was there? This is me, 5 minutes before the show, spontaneous O Canada, and this big flag is unfurled underneath me. It's like fantastic. Still don't believe me? Well, guess what? CBC had it on, right? The last gal you saw on that CBC broadcast? Well, guess what? There's my lovely Denise. Can you believe it? Like serendipity or what? And to produce the actual tickets and the fact I was there, so I was there, right? I could have been making all that up, right? She could have been sleeping with someone from the band. Who knows, right? But you know, Gord said something that was cryptic at that concert. Right? He said, it's going to take us 100 years to figure out what the hell went on up there. And it isn't cool, and everyone knows that. But we're going to figure it out. You're going to figure it out. And then he went on to say later, we're trained our entire lives to ignore. Trained our entire lives to hear not a word of what's going on up there. But we're going to get it fixed. What was he talking about? Well, he was talking about this. His, and wait for it, older brother Mike. Well, if you're a hip fan, you'd get it, but everyone's like, what is he talking about? It'll come later when you hear one of your hip songs. Gave 10 years ago a Maclean's article to his younger brother Gord. And the name of that article was The Lonely Death of Charlie Wenjack. In that article, it described a young 12-year-old boy who was taken from his family and put in a residential school 600 kilometers away. And his real name was Chani, and the residential school teacher said, you're Charlie. He said, the hell with this, and he tried to walk home. And he died. And so Gord made an album about it called Secret Path, with all proceeds going to truth and reconciliation. And so I thought about this. I'm like, here's a guy when he was 18, now 52, in perhaps the most distressing time of his life, still oozing the purpose mindset. And insofar as setting up a foundation for people like us to donate, to help what we did as a real atrocity to our country. That's bigger than anything. That's a calling. And that's what we need. And he said in the Globe a few weeks ago, if it's the last thing I do, then I'm happy. And it brings me to tears, because when you think about it in our orgs, we need more Gords. So, when you leave today, ask yourself a question for you. What's my personal purpose? And do I have purpose in my role at work? Equally important, as you go back on Monday to your organization, how are you helping your employees decipher their personal purpose and whether or not they will have purpose in their roles? And maybe it's not the tragically hip. Maybe we got it wrong. Maybe it's the purposefully hip. With that, thank you.